Hey there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today, and this one is a Thomas Nelson Revised Standard Version New Testament. And it's a pocket New Testament, obviously. You can tell by the size, it's very diminutive. Now, one thing that Thomas Nelson did very well, Thomas Nelson did an amazing job with their RSVs from this era. I've got a whole bunch of RSVs from Thomas Nelson. Maybe I'll link the Thomas Nelson playlist up there for you guys if you want to check some of them out. But they really had fantastic RSVs, certainly fantastic New Testaments. They really just like struck it out of the park. They went to town with RSVs, and the quality was just so nice on all of them, and the layout and the paper choice and everything was spectacular. So let's go ahead and get into this one. This one is a black synthetic cover. It's not a genuine leather, and it feels like maybe something with a substrate material, and it is kind of cracking there on the edge, so maybe like similar to like a Pour Americ. You can't see that simulated grain there and the little perimeter liner on the edge. On the spine, we have New Testament, Psalms, RSV, and then just Nelson, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of spine hub indications there that have been kind of burnished a little bit. On the back, we don't have anything other than that grain in the perimeter line again. On the side, or on the other details, we can see the white head and tail bands. We can see that wonderful gold gilt. Look at that, actual gold. You can tell by how much luster it has. Wonderful gold gilt. And we have a single-sided satin ribbon, black, single, and the size is appropriate for the size of Bible, certainly. When we get into it, we have that kind of Saffiano look paper on the inside and some of the corner work there that you guys can see. It's a paper paste down, but nice enough. Very well done. I always wonder how the artisans, handcrafted this stuff like this so small, back in the day. So here we have our, do we have any page? Nope, it's only one page. So just this page. And we have one blank sheet. You can kind of see that it's kind of separating here a little bit. That was the only thing I will say about RSV editions from Thomas Nelson. Everything was great, but I noticed that you always have this kind of split between the kind of the end sheets and the first signature there. This is like a hallmark. You'll see this almost every time, 9 times out of 10, and certainly once you start reading it and cracking into it, it's going to happen to probably the edition you have. So I love the way they phrase this, the New Covenant, commonly called the New Testament, for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Revised Standard Version, Thomas Nelson Sons. We have a little bit of information there, copyright information. It says 1946, the New Testament. And manufactured in the United States of America. And there's a preface. Look how nice that is. Man, there's something about pocket-sized Bibles when they do them in single column. They just look, spectacular. Chef's kiss. They look so nice. So we'll flip through the preface there. And we have the names and order of the books of the New Testament. A little table of contents. And it gets right into it, the Gospel according to Matthew. And look how nice this is. Man, what a nice format. Beautiful paper. You can see there's a little bit of show through there. But what a wonderful format. Look at that. Just wonderful. Absolutely stellar. I wish that Thomas Nelson would do some stuff like this. Return to the roots, so to speak. This stuff is just so nice. All right, so we'll take a look at it. You have the book and associated chapter numbers up in the top outer corners. In the inner corners in the gutter, you have your kind of your running headers there about what's going on, your little summaries there. You have a double line numeral there. And then you just have your verses, your verse numbers indicated in the text. That can be a little hard to see there. Like, man, it's kind of small to see verse 25 there, the indicator for it. Verse 18 in the beginning of the paragraph is a little easier to see. But again, it's a single column paragraph text, and man, it's just so nicely done. You have your page numbers there at the bottom in the center. They do have some poetic formatting there throughout. Man, look at that. Let's flip through it a little bit. Here, we'll go to the center. You guys can see that wonderful red under gold art gilt. Look at that beautiful red. And this paper is ever so slightly yellowed, but it's just such a wonderful yellowing. Now, you can see a little bit of show through, very, very, very minor. But certainly, look on this side, it looks beautiful. Everything's line matched. You can't really see much of anything going on there. I will say the only thing is the leading is kind of tight. Here's a great example of it. The ascender on the D and the word and here, and then the descender on the G in teaching, they almost touch. It's like super, super close. So they probably could have opened up the leading a little bit more. Granted, even a little bit more would have added quite a few pages onto the end of this. And you're going for a trim edition. Obviously you're trying to get it as tight as possible, but that's one of those things that I would, I'd rather have a slightly thicker edition with a little bit better leading. But man, it's just beautiful otherwise. Oh, I love this kind of stuff, man. I geek out for this. This is like vintage Bible craft at its finest. Thomas Nelson, kudos. If you guys are out there watching these videos, I highly doubt it. But if you're out there watching these videos, man, kudos to this older design here. let's go ahead and they're newer designs too. Their newer designs are no slouch. I like their newer stuff too. Sadly, you can see where the New Testament ends, Revelation 22, and then there's a little item number stamp there. It says VR and then 855, and there's the Psalms. Whoop, let me get in frame. Goodness, there's the Psalms. Title page. I have some copyright information there that is incredibly hard to read. And then we have our Psalms. Now, if you notice, look at the size difference, right? So there's the font we came from, and here's where we're going. So I'll give you guys a separate measurement for these, but these are very diminutive. And weirdly, these Psalms have cross references there in the bottom. So I'm assuming that this must have been picked up and shrunk from a different edition. Instead of formatting it over again for the single column, they probably just picked it up from one of their other RSV editions and shrunk it down. But yeah, you do have the footnotes there with a couple cross references. There is a very slight attempt at poetic formatting, although I do see some single word lines. And you probably get a better feel for the show through here, although this text is considerably smaller, and it does not appear that there's any line matching. It seems to just kind of go all over the place. But again, this paper is so great that it's minimal. I mean, it's minimal to the eye. Oh, and if you're reading the Psalms out of here, bless you. I mean, you're doing God's work. That's some tough reading. Let's go to Psalm 119. I can't tell. I can barely read it. There we go. This is Psalm 119, and it looks like there is no indicators. And if I remember, the RSV did do away with those. There's no transliterations of the Hebrew letters or the Hebrew letters themselves. All right, so we get to Psalm 150. You have one blank sheet. Then your end sheet right there. And there's another stamp right there. It looks like maybe CEF. Part of it's missing, though. And then 690 XP. So, excellent edition, man. Beautiful layout. Unfortunately, they didn't reformat the Psalms. I wish they would have. But, you know, back then things were a little bit different. I would imagine it's probably pretty hard to do that. So they just went with what they could easily. So we're going to get some measurements. It is right at 5 inches tall by just over 3 inches wide, and it's about an inch and what is that for? An inch and 5/8. No, wait, sorry, JK, not an inch and 5/8, just 5/8. 5/8 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch thick. Let's go and get some measurements, and I'll give you them for Psalms and the remainder of the New Testament. It's about an 8.5 point font versus Times New Roman for the uppercase. About a 9.5 point font versus Times New Roman for the lowercase. So I would say about a 9.5 point font, since I go with the lowercase letters, since there's more of them, for the major portion of the New Testament, or for the New Testament, excuse me, and then for the Psalms. Goodness, this is going to be scary. Oh, let's try this D and Dathan. Oh, criminy, yeah, man. Oh, that's about a 5.5 point font versus Times New Roman for the uppercase. And yeah, about a 5.5 point font versus Times New Roman for the lowercase. So for the Psalms portion, it's a 5.5 point font. So very diminutive. You're probably going to need to carry, I don't know, I can read it, but it's not going to be a comfortable reading experience. Some of you maybe can get away with this, but a 5.5 point is very small to be reading text for any extended period of time. This is a wonderful edition, man. I really love it. And like I said, Thomas Nelson did some spectacular editions in the RSV. I really wish sometimes, Thomas Nelson, if you're listening, please, I would love to have it would be super cool to have a vintage line come out where you guys literally just recreate this as best as you can. Maybe not this specific one, but there was an awesome large print RSV double column that I did a review on. That was a beautiful edition. They could just totally reproduce that. And certainly the ASV Bourgeois, I said this before, the ASV Bourgeois, if they could just release that in the 8VO size, that would just be a beautiful thing. Just exactly the way you have it. Full yap, red under gold, beautiful, wonderful, yellowy paper. Oh, it would just be so nice. Bible buddies, if you feel like seeing anything that for them to reproduce from the vintage lines, feel free to chime in below. Otherwise, Bible buddies, until next time, bye.